Proper order, but you fail. Which one's Jason?
469.
Chairman Shaw, you here? Let's call House Bill 469 substitute, and the floor is yours, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 469 is probably one of the easiest bills I've ever worked on, so I want to explain why, because these gentlemen and lady on the front row here have worked to reach compromise. The franchised auto dealers have been working with the manufacturers on this bill for quite a while, and that's why we're late getting it to you. There was a few other tweaks made recently, and they've been going back and forth, so I appreciate their good faith and hard work in coming to an agreement on these. A lot of negotiations and compromise on both sides, but I'll just briefly go through the bill. Section 1 just clarifies that the parts and labor reimbursement for warranty and recall work, the current law requires that the manufacturers compensate the dealers for warranty and recall parts and labor at retail rate, but doesn't currently provide a procedure by which those rates are calculated. So there's a provision in the bill that details that procedure based on the calculation of retail rates for warranty and recall parts and labor based on a sampling of non-warranty customer pay repair orders. The manufacturer can contest the retail rate declared by a dealer and suggest a rate endorsement. There's provisions, so if they can't agree on a retail rate, then it requires the manufacturer's internal dispute resolution procedure. So if any can be used, they use that in an effort to resolve any disagreement. And if they're still unsuccessful, then a petition can be filed with the Commissioner of the Department of Revenue. And this Section 1 also requires manufacturers to compensate dealers for used vehicles in a dealer's inventory that cannot be sold due to a stop sale directive issued by the manufacturer. And then Section 2 it eliminates the statutory right of first refusal that exists in current law, so it's dealing when a dealership is sold or you've had a transfer of assets, just dealing with their first right of refusal. So that's the gist of it. Again, this is a compromise bill between the dealers and the manufacturers.
Any members of the committee have questions for the presenter, for Chairman Shaw? Go ahead, Representative Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Representative, this is, it might be a simple bill, but my goodness, it does cover pages.
It's good for the timber industry.
There we go. And I appreciate that as an ag producer. The question that I have is the impact of this legislation to the consumer.
Well, I don't think there will be any impact to the consumer, because if it's a warranty repair, then the consumer just expects that warranty to be covered and to be active, and that all that be worked out between the two parties in the bill, the dealers and the manufacturers. So,
okay. So, Mr. Chairman, one follow-up.
Go ahead, please.
It should be transparent for the consumer then, so that the squabbles that the dealer and the manufacturer have to work out, I'm still going to be covered under my warranty. Mm-hmm. Nothing in this will change that.
Yeah, this just changes the internal dealings between the dealers,
Thank you,
the manufacturers, and their dealers. And the way I look at this bill is it's kind of a win-win, because anytime when the group that's actually paying for it is in favor of it, I mean, you got a pretty good win-win situation, because usually the person that's paying for it's going to be the one that wants to make changes. So, again, I appreciate the two parties for working diligently to come to an agreement on this bill.
okay.
Any other questions from any committee members? The bill is now in the breast of the committee. Do I have a motion? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any amendments? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Representative Garden. This is House Bill 438, substitute LC 391629S. Is that correct?
That's correct. I hope you
floor
all
is
have a
yours.
copy. think some of you are familiar with this particular bill. Judge, I really appreciate you giving me some good advice last
I
Friday.
hope it was good advice.
Well, I think it is. I mean, our agenda here is to keep you safe while you're in the city of Atlanta here for the legislative session. And let me just go over briefly what the bill does. As you can tell from looking at the bill, Section 1 adds off-road and all-terrain vehicles, which are the vehicles that are being used by lots of people, not just in the city of Atlanta, but certainly by some gangs in the city of Atlanta. And our objective is to try to make sure the police have what they need to deal with this problem. Section 2, well, once again, so it adds off-road and all-terrain vehicles and defines what a public space is. And that's any place that's open to the public, including parking areas that are open to the public. Section 2 changes or adds some language about what this current misdemeanor is. It is already against the law to drive these all-terrain vehicles on our roads. The fine right now is $25 or more if you're driving your ATV on a road, with a whole list of exceptions that are down at the bottom of Section 1. I mean, obviously, anything that's farm machinery using for harvesting or forest products would not be impacted. So in that sense, it really doesn't change what is the current law. It does add a section which we think will make it will be helpful to the Atlanta Police Department and hopefully other departments around the state. Anybody who is driving one of these vehicles where there is a direct threat of harm or to persons or property will be fined according to the current Misdemeanor Act. I mean, except for places, the next sentence says property owners provide permission. So there are some ATV parks where kids can go pay to ride, and that's certainly not a place that we want to impact any more than we want to impact on any rural communities in any negative way. The last section 3 describes, the first part is pretty much the current law, except it now says at least $25. This says up to $100. It creates a second offense. So if for some reason or other the person re-offends in the same way, is a threat to a person or property, and is riding on a road, a prohibited road, they'll have a second offense, which will be a high and aggravated misdemeanor with a higher fine, which could be as high as $5,000, but it could be anywhere between $100 and $5,000. So I think we've solved the problem of not being too draconian in terms of this bill. I believe that the exceptions that have been in the law for many years continue to cover most of the kinds of uses that are used outside of the city. It would be really nice if we in urban areas had a way to define ourselves as different than rural areas, but I think we all need to be safe on the roads, and I encourage you to pay attention to ATV vehicles that are on public roads, an act which is illegal under current law.
Thank you, Representative Gardner. Any members of the committee have questions for Representative Gardner?
At the appropriate time, we've heard her bill the first time, and Judge, if you are okay with the changes she's made, I recommend a do pass.
Well, let me see if anybody got any more questions, and then I'm gonna recognize you for that.
Yes, sir, at the appropriate time.
All right, Representative, you have a motion?
I make a motion that do pass.
LC 391629S. Here a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Any amendments? All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by same sign.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
It's on the rules. We stand adjourned.